Oh, hey guys, sorry, I was just playing Infinite's campaign. Welcome back. Today, as promised, we are doing an Infinite campaign Q&A. You guys asked me quite literally thousands of questions, and in this video, I'm going to answer some of them. Obviously, not all of them. There are some that I simply couldn't answer, so in this video, I've selected quite a few nice varied questions that I can give good answers to, so let's waste no time and dive into them. Okay then, the first question by Hereticled asks, does the Chief feel like our familiar stoic superhero in his dialogue? So Chief in Infinite, based on what I played, feels like a mixture of like the classic Bungie era one-liner machine Chief and also the Halo 4 more emotive and emotional Chief. I think there's a very nice mix of both characters there that fans of both eras of Halo are going to really enjoy. Astral Knight asks, how does respawning work? Is it similar to old Halo games where you revert to the last checkpoint, or is it a system similar to Destiny where you die and respawn nearby but with the game still going on? It's very similar to classic Halo, it just reverts to a checkpoint. There's not really much to say here, but you die, you go back to the last checkpoint, you continue as if you never died. That's pretty much how it works. Vitali Ross asks, what do you think of Infinite's apparent reduction to the number of enemies that you can encounter at the same time compared to previous Halo games? I didn't notice this at all. It felt like, if anything, there were more enemies in an encounter than before, so I don't think there's a reduction in the amount that you fight at the same time, so I wouldn't worry about that. Amberclad in Peril asks, do the guns feel like they despawn fast because in multiplayer they'll be gone before I can get back to my body sometimes? No, this is one of my worries, and that's not the case at all. Halo 4 in particular was really bad for this, but in Infinite I've left guns on the floor for like 10 minutes before, gone somewhere else, come back, and that gun is still there with the same ammo, same everything to pick up and use again, so that's not a concern at all. Branson asked, is it worth it to fight for Valor, and do the Marines that you buy with Valor follow you into battle? So honestly, it's entirely optional. I would recommend it. To get the full experience of the game, I'd recommend it, and there are times where it can be useful. I would say that obviously it's a mechanic of the game for a reason, right? I would definitely make the most of it. And as for the Marines, yeah, you can load them up into a Warthog and go straight into battle with them. Gabriel D asks, is the campaign hampered by the semi-open world component, or do you think 343 found a balance between the main and secondary missions, like Rescue Marines? I think the game is objectively considerably better for the semi-open world areas of the game. I think they add so much to the formula. They really play into the equipment, as I said in my last video, the more like abilities in this game, at least in the campaign. It plays into the equipment / abilities, it plays into Halo's gunplay, Infinite's movement. I think the semi-open worldness is such a refreshing and welcome addition. It's one of those things that I can't believe Halo's never really tried to do before, at least in the capacity that Infinite does it. Obviously, we had Silent Cartographer and Halo from Halo 1, but that's really it. We've never had an entire game dedicated to it, and I think it's a long time coming, and it's something that should we ever go back to a campaign where it's just purely linear, I think I'll miss the open worldness. Jedi Spartan 38 asked a good question that I really want to answer. Is the open world closer to standard open worlds from other games, or Mombasa Streets from ODST? Now, this is a question that I want to answer in many ways because I also got a load of other questions from people saying, is the open world like Far Cry? Now, I'm going to be honest, I'll answer that one first. The last time I played Far Cry was like Far Cry 2. I played it for like 10 minutes at a friend's house on some weird custom map that was a recreation of a toilet seat. So, I don't know, but based on what I've heard about Far Cry games and their structure, Infinite doesn't feel anything like them. I said this in my video the other day, but to me, Infinite's open world feels like a beautiful combination of Halo from Halo 1, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Shadow of Mordor. It feels like all those three open world experiences put together, mashed together, and the result is something really beautiful. And that kind of answers Jedi's question as well. It feels like Halo 1's Halo, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Shadow of Mordor blended together. That's really, I think, the best way that I can describe this game's campaign. Seamus Clerkin asks, is there a fine mix of classic Halo music and brand new music throughout Halo Infinite? And also, does it lean toward one more than the other? Yes. I'm simply going to answer yes to this one. Josh Kotoff asks, can you fall off the edge of the ring? Yes, sir, you can do. You can plummet right into space. They weren't kidding when they said you can literally stare off the side of a Halo. They weren't kidding. TR Preston asks, what feel does the campaign give you? Do you get Combat Evolved vibes, or Halo 2 vibes, or Halo 3, etc.? So, Infinite gives me a really nice combination of Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo 4. It feels like elements of all of those games, again, mashed together, and the combination that it creates is really, really unique. It feels familiar, but it also feels totally new at the same time. It's fantastic. Really happy with it. Alex G asks, just how dynamic is the soundtrack? How does it react to combat intensity, to environmental factors, to NPCs present, to time of day, etc.? I won't speak to any specifics, but I will say that it's pretty reactive and pretty dynamic. I think that's all I'll say for now, but I don't think you'll be disappointed. That's a good way to put it. Halo Hub GG asks, how well do you think the campaign introduces both new and old themes to the campaign, while remaining easy to follow for newer players who may not have played a Halo game before? And also, does the game have a story that's just as interesting to somebody who isn't as familiar with Halo? Now, I kind of share IGN's thoughts on this, that the game isn't maybe as open to completely brand new fans as maybe 343 had marketed. Like I said back then, when the IGN said that, I don't personally mind that at all. I would prefer the campaign to be built for returning fans over people that had never played a Halo game before, because at the end of the day, it is a sequel to Halo 5. It's not a complete, like, reboot of the entire franchise, right? So I would want that. That said, though, I do think it will still be a good onboarding experience for new fans. I think that what is there is, it's easy enough to follow without having played anything before, but at no point do you ever feel like it just forgets what came before, or that nothing that came before matters. That's just so far from the case. But yeah, I don't think it's maybe as accommodating for new fans as maybe 343 would have wanted, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Oh, and is it just as interesting? Yeah, definitely. Slumpy asks, how did you find the enemy balancing? Do they all have their specific roles? So, for example, the brutes aren't too similar to the elites like in Halo 3. I found the enemy balancing really good. The enemies felt distinct from one another. The way that you fight them, the way that you encounter them, all felt very unique. I will say, though, it's rather interesting that Infinite, at least to me, is kind of like the first proper time where we're fighting both brutes and elites at the same time on the enemy team. I guess Halo 2 had it a little bit, and so did Reach, but Infinite really feels like the first game that is crafted with that from the get-go, right? Like, obviously, in Reach and Halo 2, they come in towards the end, whereas that's not the case in Infinite. So I think that with that in mind, they did a really good job. They do feel distinct from one another. The ranks that they have really help differentiate them. It's just so exciting to be fighting brutes again. Like, it's really fun to fight them again. I can't put into words how fun they are to kill. Tyler Robertson asks, how is the lore in the game of Zeta Halo / Installation 07, the Banished, John, the Weapon, etc.? Does it add to the Halo universe, considering Installation 07 is one of the most, if not most important ring? I'm gonna literally just give this a few word answer. It's great. That's what I'm gonna say. It's great. Andrew Becker asks, how are the boss battles? Are they like bullet sponges or actual strategic enemies? So, Infinite's boss battle design is really interesting. They're treated as bosses, but at the same time, it's not like a boss in, for example, Dark Souls, where the boss is this, like, insanely unique character that has, like, completely unique traits and is, like, nothing you'll ever fight again in the game. They are similar to their species, so, for example, an elite boss will be partially similar to other elite. They don't feel the same, they feel unique, but they will be, like, a little bit similar. But I think that's a good thing, because it avoids the mess that we got into with Halo 5, for example, with the Warden, where he was designed quite differently and he was literally just a bullet sponge. Infinite's bosses feel like they aren't bullet sponges, rather they're rather easy to kill. I was actually a bit surprised how easy they were to kill at first, but the more I thought about it, I was like, hang on, no, I actually used a genuine strategy to take that boss out, and it should have worked. And if the boss was just a bullet sponge, then that strategy wouldn't have worked, and it would have been as satisfying. So I think the bosses they're tough, don't get me wrong, they are tough, but you can take them down pretty quick if you employ the strategies that you would use for that species. Oh, and also, I mentioned this in my video the other day, but the theming of these bosses, oh man, that's still my favorite bit about them. The theming of them, the build-up, oh, so good. So good. So good. So, Dutch Fat and also a lot of other people asked, what difficulty did you play on, and how hard was it compared to other games? I would definitely prefer to see the difficulties resemble Halo 2 or Halo 3. So I've played normal and legendary, and it was harder than I thought it was going to be, but at the same time, there were bits that are a bit easier. So legendary has been surprisingly easy at parts, although there are definitely difficulty spikes. I would say the difficulty is closest to Halo 3, which I know for a lot of people is going to be a good thing. I thought Halo 3 was a little bit too easy on Legendary. I think Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 1 to me is the only Halo game to get Legendary balancing right. Everything since has either been too hard or too easy. Halo 1 did it right, and it's more like Halo 3, which to be fair, I would prefer over Halo 2, because it's not a completely miserable experience, which is good. But I think people are going to be happy with it, definitely. Vove Sooner, and again, a lot of other people as well, asked, how do you think the replayability of this game is going to be? Now, it's still early days, obviously, so it's quite hard to judge this right now, but what I will say is that I think it's going to be really good. I've played a lot, and a lot of that time has been spent doing nothing of value, just wandering around the world, encountering things, like just doing really mundane stuff, but the world design is so good that that mundane stuff doesn't feel mundane. I feel like it's a worthwhile experience, whereas in other open world games, I wouldn't really think that. Even ones that I like MGS5, for example, with that game, I never really feel rewarded for just walking around the map. Like, unless I go to a base or something, I never really feel rewarded. In Halo Infinite, maybe it's because I'm a Halo fan, maybe it's because I'm on, like, my favorite location in the entire universe, right? But just wandering around Zeta Halo is so satisfying. I think that alone is going to add so much to replayability. I also think that the gameplay will play into that a lot, and also the equipment, in particular the grapple hook. It's no surprise, but the grapple hook just goes together like peanut butter and jelly with the open world. The two just, like, such a good combination. I think those two things alone. So I probably spent like 5-6 hours right now doing nothing but sprinting, grappling to the floor, and sliding out of that grapple because it gives you a really big momentum boost, and it kind of feels like Titanfall 2 levels of movement. I've spent so long just doing that. I think we're going to be good in terms of replayability. And I think it's funny as well because Halo 2 for me is my most replayable game, more so than literally any other Halo game, and by quite a considerable amount as well. I think Halo 2 for me is a lot more replayable than Halo 1 and Halo 3, which isn't the case for a lot of people, but the main thing that I pin that down to, besides Halo 2's god tier story and voice acting and music and everything, is the exploration, being able to, like, go out the map and stuff. And obviously exploration in Halo Infinite is a core component of the game, which helps replayability a lot. Braswell Unleashed asked, is there fall damage? There is no fall damage whatsoever, thank the Lord. Fall damage would, I'm not kidding, fall damage would ruin this game. There are so many things that I've done that would have just been completely ruined by fall damage. I'm so happy that Halo's moving away from that now. I think Halo 5 didn't have any, to be fair, which was great, but it's good to see Halo Infinite continue that, because reaching Halo 4 having fall damage, I don't know, there was just something that took so much of the fun out of the game for me. Exploration got hurt by it, and also just, like, fun messing around things got hurt by it as well. So yeah, there's no fall damage, and the game is just so much better for it. Jack Bloomer asks, from a pure gameplay perspective, so excluding the plot and the characters, what is your favourite aspect of the game, and what is your least favourite aspect of the game? So, my favourite aspect of the game from gameplay is exploration, and it's not even close. The exploration in this game, I'm going to keep saying it, is so addictive, satisfying, rewarding, and just fun. Like, I have so much fun just grappling around Zeta Halo, doing nothing. Like I said, I spent hours just grappling around the map, doing absolutely nothing of value, just exploring. That alone, I love the exploration in Halo 2, and literally since 2004, I've been waiting for a Halo to take that element and make it like a core facet of the game. And Infinite does that, and it does it so well. And then my least favorite aspect, probably the weapon sandbox. I actually saw that Halo Canon had a similar issue, so it's good to see that it's not just me going crazy. It just felt a bit too small and a bit too tightly controlled. I miss when there were more like weaker but fun guns in the sandbox. Like, I don't know, it just feels too tightly controlled and too small for campaign. I would have liked more there, I think. Joseph Jordan asks, when you first saw Zeta Halo, were you blinded by its majesty? I would say that I was not only blinded, I was also paralyzed and rather dumbstruck. And I think everyone else is going to feel the same way. All jokes aside though, yes, I was. The moment where, like, you first... Oh. Very good. Yes, I was. I was blinded, I was paralyzed, and I was dumbstruck. Cerebral Cloud asks, as it stands, do you think this is the best iteration of boss battles that the franchise has seen? And if so, for what reasons? Yes. Yes, 1,000 times yes. I actually like Halo 2s. I don't like Halo 5s. But yeah, I think it is. For the main reason for me is the theming, honestly. Just I can't put into words how good the theming of the boss battles is. Like, oh, I'm not saying anything, but
Nobody's saying much, but I'll bet something big's about to happen.
Another wannabe asks, how enjoyable is the enemy and marine banter in the game, and are there any interactions that you found especially funny? There's a lot. Honestly, I can't really recall any from like the top of my head because there were so many. I think people are going to be really happy with them. There's this one. Right.
Right here.
Marine, there you go. Go crazy.
Well, what do we have here?
Oh no! This happened like in my first play session and I was, as you can hear, in stitches. So yeah, I think for the most part people are going to be happy. T-Mode asks, is the gameplay itself fun and as addicting as the multiplayer, and also is the story captivating at all? So story, yes. Again, all I'm going to say is yes, but it is captivating. And the gameplay is very fun and it is addictive. Like I've already said in this video, I've spent so much time just grappling around the map. Just zoom, like that gameplay loop there. I feel like 343 have kind of discovered so Jamie Griezmann with Halo 1 with Bungie had his 30 seconds of fun. I feel like 343 have discovered like a 10 seconds of fun here to add on to the 30 seconds of fun. Like, I can't put into words how satisfying it is grappling around this map. It's, oh, the gameplay is so good. If anything, it might even lend itself better to campaign than multiplayer. Honestly, yeah, it's very fun and very satisfying. Disturbed Halo 117 asks, how polished does the game feel? That's a good question. For me, it felt really polished. It felt really, really polished. Now, I will say, Digital Foundry have made a video about this, I think, and they are so much more qualified than me to talk about optimization or performance. So I would suggest, if they have made a video, I'll have it on screen in the description. I would suggest going and watching that over hearing me talk about something I don't understand. But in my totally amateur experience, yeah, it was pretty well optimized. It was pretty well, the performance is really good. It was pretty well polished. I didn't really experience any bugs. I don't think so. It was really well polished. Abyss Chief asks, how does it feel to fight enemies wielding human weapons? You'd think that dealing with hit scan would be a pain, because obviously Halo typically is all about dodging like slow plasma shots and dancing around the combat loop. So enemies holding human weapons is obviously nothing new. The Flood did it in Halo 1, 2, and 3. The Brutes did it in Halo 2. It's nothing new. I think on Legendary, there was like maybe one time where I was like, that was a bit annoying, but I never really thought it was frustrating, to be honest with you. I mean, like I said, it's not new to the franchise, really. It's a good question, don't get me wrong, but it's not exactly a new feature to the franchise, so I don't think it's necessarily any better or worse than it has been before. I think it's probably a bit more prevalent in the game, but I think you just kind of get used to it, really. Fam Sisha, nice, asks, how would you describe the overall tone of the game in those 4 hours? Was it more playful and campy like the original trilogy, or did it lean more towards the melodramatic and lore-intensive 4 and 5? I'm not joking when I say this, it is literally both put together. There are elements of both, that like highlights of both styles of the game put together so well. I honestly think that this game is gonna appeal to both classic like trilogy fans and also fans of Halo 4's story and Halo 5 as well. I really think that people are gonna love both sides of it because I think that yeah, both are definitely present. And finally, Blue P51 asks, are Spartan cores available in the main story missions, or are we going to be forced to explore or do side missions in order to find them? Both. You won't be forced to do anything. They're present in both. They're present in both. That's all I've got to say for that one. So, that's going to round out this Q&A. Thank you all very much for submitting your questions. Like I said, there were many that I just can't answer for whatever reason. So, sorry about that, but I did answer quite a few in this video. So, hopefully I answered your question. Hopefully I put any worries you had to rest or got you even more hyped for the campaign. fingers crossed. If you guys have any ideas for other campaign videos you want to see from me, then let me know down below in the comments, because I want to make more, obviously, so let me hear any ideas you've got. And with that said, I'm going to round this one out here. Thank you very much for watching. I want to give a massive thank you to all my patrons for the continued support over there. Thank you very much, my friends. And also to everyone else for watching the video too. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you all in the next one.